Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos, Daf Ayin Beis. I want to give two very short ha'aras on the Haruge Beit Rachman Litzlan. There's a lot to say about it, and this is a famous Gemara in Bavli and Yerushalmi, and I just want to bring down two famous ha'aras on it that just maybe we could. There's Ayin Beis Matter Shul Chiddush, maybe just add a drop. So the Gemara in Bavli and Yerushalmi both talk about all the brachos in Shemona Esrei in Berachos Hamazon, and so it says that. When the Rav Huna says, Rav Huna, that's his name, Chesavav Nun Alf, when the Haruge Beiter were finally allowed to be buried, so Nikvu HaTov Vihameitiv, they added this bracha in benching called HaTov Vihameitiv, and what's the blessing on? HaTov Shlo Nitzrachu, miraculously the bodies didn't decay, so we're thanking Hashem for that. Vihameitiv, they finally were able to be buried. And the order, obviously they first saw that they didn't decay, and then they were therefore able to be buried intact, etc. Okay, and we know that there's a lot of very sad halachas about, mace is kona, it's to usaso, and normally if it would have decayed, they would have had to dig up some of the ground, etc. There's some of Farshim that try to use that as an explanation. So we know that Moshe was masaking the first Berachos, Azan, and then Yeshua, the next bracha, etc., etc. So it seems there's two famous questions. One of them is like, what exactly was big simcha that like they were kovei a whole bracha of benching for this, and the second one is that it's very odd. It seems very odd that when there's a special bracha for the enhancement of wine, and it's the same exact one, HaTov Vihameitiv. So what's going on? Like, what does that mean? It's called Berachos HaTov Vihameitiv. So what's the pshat? So Rabbeinu Bachya, the famous author of Al Torah, not the one from Chos Avos, the one that came later. Chos Avos one lived in the 1000s, and the Rabbeinu Bachya Al Torah was a Talmud of the Rashba and Rabbeinu Yonah Kiyadua. And so Rashba lived in 1235 to 1305, so he lived around somewhere in those times as well, in Spain, and learned out of the Rashba, and quotes his Rebbe many times. And he says a very famous pshat in his Sefer Shulchan Shel Arba. He says it in his Pirush on Pirkei Avos, I believe, as well. Maybe even on Chumash, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But he says, shout out to my friend Tzvi Haston, who introduced me to the world of Rabbeinu Bachya many, many years ago, many decades ago. So he says that when a person is drinking wine at a meal, it's very easy for him to lose himself. And so Chazal specifically were masakein that this bracha should be made about Tov HaMeitiv in order to remind him not to lose himself. Meaning, even though there's an element to the bracha that it's thanking Hashem as well, Tov HaMeitiv, that we're able to share this wine with other people, which is the purpose of our meal, so that we could have a long meal and share chesed with others, but nonetheless, it's supposed to keep us grounded as well to think about Yom HaMisa, just like we find this idea by a wedding that people shouldn't get carried away. So that's exactly what the concept is. But there's something else as well, which I think is part of it, and it's kind of how I interpret some of his words, but maybe it's my own. I'm not sure, but I know other people have said this. It's not definitely not my own thought originally, but basically that when a person benches, so we're trying to connect to Hashem. We're trying to recognize that everything is from Hashem. And so, to a certain degree, yes, thank you, Hashem. Hazanas Olam Kulo. The mun came down, and it was amazing. And Yeshua was, so that was Moshe's excitement. And then Yeshua was extremely excited that they finally got into Eretz Yisrael. So he, added that bracha. And then David and Shlomo were Masakin Uvnei Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim was rebuilt in their time, etc. But then HaTov Vihameitiv is kind of like the bracha of the Galus. It's the bracha that recognizes, Ribono Shalom, things are tough, things are rough, the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, we're waiting for Mashiach to come, but nonetheless, we could even thank you for the biggest tragedy that happened, but nonetheless, we could find your wink and your care, Hashem, that Lamaisa, Lo Nisrachu, and L'Kvura, even in the biggest challenges. And that's why it's brought down that someone who says benching, Bekavana will never be hungry, because if a person recognizes that the Ribono Shalom runs the world, and in good times of the mun and the amazing success and amazing power that the Jewish people had, and prestige that they had, they came to Eretz Yisrael and they had David and Shlomo, but also at the same time, the person can recognize that there's a Chorban HaBayis, and we're still turning to Hashem. Or we know that we're supposed to cover a knife, during the weekdays and not bench because we're not bench with it in front of us, because a person could go crazy and think, oh my gosh, the Galus is lasting for so long. But also, even thinking about the most tragic times, but find that wink where Hashem says, I'm still watching you. Loma astim, achalosam, lafa brisi. I'm still thinking about you, and I still recognize that you're important, and I gave you, that punishment that was needed, etc. But still, Ribono Shalom says, I gave you that dignity. That's an important lesson of Azonos Olam Kulo as well, and we should be zocha to always see Hashem's hand in everything in life, from the full gamuts of Simcha to even the most challenging times we go through.